Hey, it's Joey from Imzz Elite. We're back in the shop. It's been a while, but we got this 39mm Dyna, this 01 lowrider. Just recently got a 2-over conversion with a private mechanic and blew the brand new fork seal. So we're gonna go through and do a whole rebuild on this 39mm front end. Let's get into it. All right, for starters, since we know we're pulling the whole front end off, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the fender first. So I'll put some rags down, so that way after I get the fender off, we can set it down without leaving marks on it. And then we'll roll it through, we'll pull the front wheel off. Quarter drive Allen socket or Allen key and a 1/2-inch wrench, preferably a ratchet wrench. It's gonna make your life easier. Being that it's on the back side, you can flip this wrench around. We'll break them all loose first. Now I got all the nuts removed, so I can just hold it with my hands and push the bolts out. And then I always like to take these out the back side. While the pinch bolt and everything's still tight, we're gonna go ahead and break that axle nut loose, 3/4 socket. I'm gonna use an impact. You can use a breaker bar, doesn't matter. And you take your 5/16 Allen, either socket or key, and a 9/16 ratchet wrench. And get this pinch bolt. You're gonna want to take it all the way off. You'll see why in a little bit. Alright, now we got the axle out and the wheels free. We're going to pull the caliper off and we'll be able to get the wheel all the way out. It's got these caliper covers on here, so we'll take a T25 and break all these little Torx button heads off so we can split the two halves. Now we can take our 12.10 millimeter. Get that caliper broken loose. Everything's just covered in fork oil. Alright, now we got everything free. The wheel will come right out. Track of your spacers. With the wheel out, we can take these fork legs. Now that the fender and the wheel are on, you got these grooves here. I'm gonna go ahead and take our little thin brass punch and a hammer. Knock those caps loose. Before we break these pinch bolts loose and pull the legs out, I want to go through and make sure we take all the preload out of here so it's easy to get these caps off. Take a 3/8 Allen. He's rocking the Patriot preload adjusters, so we'll need this 3/8 Allen. Take all the preload out just to relieve some tension on the cap. All right, now we got the preload all taken off there. We can get T45 and break those pinch bolts loose. We'll take these over to our shock room. Always break both bottom ones loose because the tops will hold them. And then that way I can get a grip on here and only have to break one loose. Now we can take these over to the shock room and get them all broken down. Seal dust cover caps off of here. This little seal removal tool. It's like a little flathead screwdriver, miniature pry bar. Get that little dust cover popped up. Just get between the fork leg and the dust cover. You'll have to work it up. And we're gonna go ahead and take this same little mini pry bar and remove the snap ring out of there. I'm going to take a long 6mm Allen socket on a little impact and undo the dampening rod bolt. these right into the table. We'll let those drain for a minute, and then we'll come back and pull them apart. Alright, now that we let these drain for a second, they're still going to have a little residual, but we can go ahead and break these apart with the snap ring and everything removed. You'll be able to just... Oh. Lovely. Looks like you might be missing parts, or somebody installed something wrong, which might explain why the seals were leaking. The bushing and all that didn't come with it. Usually you're not supposed to be able to get that all out like that. Oh, because it's missing a bushing. This is going to be fun. Looks like he's missing the actual slider bushing, the other half that stays pressed into the fork leg. It sits just above this fork tube bushing. So they both, one slides on the tube and on the lower, and one slides on the tube. It looks like one of them's missing, which would normally be what would pop the washer and the seal out when you pull them apart. Oh, same thing. I was hoping whoever did it just forgot them and won. Well, it's going to be an interesting seal removal. You do put these in the vise, make sure you got soft jaws, and even with the soft jaws, don't tighten down real hard, because you'll actually put a dent in the tube and they won't cycle. But if someone installs your shit incorrectly, or you buy a bike that's got some weird shit going on and this is what you gotta do, you'll have to do something similar. We're just gonna take the slide hammer and hook the washer the same as the bushing would have normally done, and grab it out carefully without putting marks inside the fork leg. I want to hook just behind the washer. Yeah, so it's definitely missing the slider bushing that should be pressed down into here. So we're gonna have to clean up that washer. The seal, might as well throw away. We're gonna start over fresh, all brand new, because who knows what the person that installed it did to the seal. Shootsy scores. We'll have to check and see if we have a rebuild kit up front. Some new bushings. We'll take this back to the shock room, get it in the parts washer, and start cleaning everything out. There's something inside of this one. The spring from the seal busted out of it and was sitting in the bottom. Lovely. Damn, made that shit. Alright. So I took apart my old wrecked forks. The tubes were trash, but the lowers were good, and I still had bushings in them. So we're gonna go ahead and get this guy back on the road right. We're gonna rinse these fork lowers out first. I'm gonna go grab the other one. There's a bunch of crud inside of there. If you don't have a parts washer, like you're doing this at home, you could do it with brake clean in that air compressor. Just make sure you spray them out good. Get dust in here basically from the Teflon on those bushings being worn, from the friction in the aluminum. Very light amount of like aluminum dust. It mixes with the fork oil and it makes like a thick mud at the bottom. Alright, so now we can get these set up the right way. These should go on here first. Sit right above the fork tube bushing. These still have good Teflon in them, so. You get these washers with the radius side facing the bushing, the flat side facing what will be up towards the seal. Whoever installed these shocks last time, not only did they forget one of the bushings, they also didn't have the oil locks in the bottom of the fork lower, so I had to again dig around. I pulled one out of my own bike, out of my own takeoff shocks from my last accident, well, my only accident. Take our fork seal driver and drive that bushing down in there. If you're not sure if it went all the way down, you can get that washer to fall out, and that bushing should be flush in the bottom of that register. Looks like we're all the way in. Just one more just to make sure. There we go. You can kind of hear that high pitch ting. I can take our brand new fork seals. I'm going to throw a little assembly lube in these new seals just to make sure nothing snags or hangs up when it's going in.
Are they directional?
Yes. I'll get there. So I have an old piece of a fork tube bag. You can also use saran wrap, works really well. I like to put this over the top. You can see it's already oily. I'll take some old fork oil and just kind of grease the tube up a little bit. Now these seals, you can see the bottom side's kind of like a cup. You can actually see it's got its own spring. There's also a spring on top, but that cup side is going to go down, facing inside of the fork leg. Let's make sure, this plastic, make sure that just none of these edges or anything catch the seal and ruin it. And you kind of want to just gently work it down. Take our fork seal driver. You should be able to see that snap ring groove down in there. That's how you know you got it all the way down. And then you just want to spin it, make sure it's in its groove without snagging the seal. Okay. Now we'll do the other side. Remember the cup side facing down.
We'll take our little dust cover sweeper. You should be able to press that in, but if you can't get it in by hand, you can sometimes use the back side of the fork seal driver, the smooth side, just to make sure you press in all the way. Chrome covers back on. Usually try to line up the mark from where you can tell it got hammered off of there so it's not visible on the other side. Again, use the butt, the top of the fork seal driver. Alright, now we got it all put back together. We're going to throw these dampening rod bolts back in. Got copper crush washers still. I just made sure they were good. These ones we're going to keep. Now we got those all put together, we're gonna go throw them back on the bike, and then we'll pop the caps and refill them. Get our T45 ready. Now this time, we popped the bottom ones first and then pulled the tops. Now we're gonna lock the bottom one, the bottom pinch bolt. I like to, right below the cap, there's like a little bevel on these tubes. I always just put the bottom of that bevel right in line with the top tree. If you pinch the top one, you won't be able to get the caps out. So we're gonna lock down this bottom one. We got this Delrin socket that comes with these Patriot adjusters. We're gonna go ahead and pull that cap off of there. First I want to throw a tank cover on here just in case the spring falls up. Sorry, not the spring, but the preload spacer. Well, there will be a little bit of pressure on this, so it's going to want to pop up. Want to try to keep a little positive pressure on the top of the socket. Wasn't that fancy? Looks like his preload spacing isn't even set right. Should be at least flush with the top of this. Ultimately, I'd like to have it probably about a ½ inch over the top. Man, how many spacers are stacked inside of here? Yeah, it looks like these springs were put together all out of order. This is the top out spring. It usually goes on the bottom side of the dampening rod. This is why it's important to make sure whoever puts parts to your bike together, that they know what they're doing. These fork internals are also completely out of order. The top out springs that go at the bottom of the dampening rods were on top of the actual primary spring. So we're gonna have to break this bolt loose again and get the dampening rod out of it. Oh, so he's got double top out springs in there. This spring was sitting on top of here. It's supposed to be the one that goes on the bottom. There's a gold valve emulator. Hopefully that's at the right preload setting. It looks like they left the factory top out spring when they did the Race Tech swap. Instead of swapping for the Race Tech top out springs, alright, we got the spacer situation all squared away. Saw those jacked up spacers, so we cut new ones 1/2 inch over the top of the tube so it gets a little preload. We're gonna go throw 10 ounces of this 15 weight Velray fork oil in here.
Is oil gonna come leaking down here?
Throw one spacer in between the preload adjuster. On these preload adjusters, when you spin it out, physically spins out the center of it. So to get it to actually put preload on the spring, you have to have a big enough washer. These washers that are in here just barely catch that flange, so it makes sure to push down on the spring. Set that on top of the preload spacer. Take all that preload out of there. I'm gonna get our cap tool here, the cap socket. The easiest way is to put a little crusher and spin the socket at the same time. Fight this clutch cable. We're gonna put this on the socket, on the ratchet. You just want to run these down until they stop. And we'll go ahead and tighten down this other top pinch bolt here. Same on the other side. Throw another 10 ounces in the other leg. Washer on top of the preload spacer cap. Started to cross thread that just a little bit. Want to make sure to go in straight. Tighten down that pinch bolt. Double check the bottom. There you go. 39 mil forks all rebuilt. We'll get the wheels all back on it. We'll get her outside. All right, so we got our fender mocked up in there just with the 4 bolts, no nuts yet. You'll see why. When you go to get this wheel in, if there's air in this tire still, those bolts are exactly what's gonna hit the tire. Now we got the wheels set in there. Can get these all started. We'll get those tightened down after we get the axle and the spacers in. So we're gonna throw that in. We can put our pinch bolt back in. The washer. go ahead and zip that axle on just to get it pulled all the way in, and then tighten up the pinch bolt. I want to give this one last snug and make sure it's tight.
Dude, it hasn't been recording.
Oh,
I just started it right now.
okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. All right. Ready?
Fuck. Yeah, go.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna take our caliper, get that on there. He's got this caliper cover, so we're gonna line that up with the ball holes on the fork. Throw the top bolt in. Just get it hand started. Bottom bolt. That started. Make sure your cover doesn't, this little grommet doesn't get stuck behind the cover if you're running one of these. Alright. So we'll get the other side of the cover on, we'll get her outside, we'll be ready to fucking rip this thing. Want to get them started. If you tighten one before you get the rest lined up, it may bind up. All right, so we went through, replaced some missing parts, missing bushings, missing oil locks. Again, make sure whoever's putting your front end together, I mean, this is your life right here. You only got 2 wheels, the front end's a big deal. So make sure whoever's working on your bike knows what they're doing. We got this little 01 lowrider all set up, good to go. So get out, snap a couple wheelies and fucking rip it up.